Hey, 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 what is up, YouTube? Thanks for hanging. It's Attacking Third Time. Christine, Darian, Sandra, I'm Lisa. We see you in the chat. Come join us. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube page. There's a whole conversation going on in our chat on YouTube. Questions, people are making friends, they're making plans to hang out. Chloe, we're drinking our coffee. Christine, Dee, Sandra, you guys have beverages? Anything?
Oh, yeah.
Always, man.
Oh, we're all
Today's
prepped.
one back.
It's a Monday.
Cheers.
I'm back,
It's
baby.
a heck of a Monday. Christine, that looks fancy. What are you drinking?
I have a system, okay? You don't want to get into it, but today I have my own box cold brew from Wandering Bear, which I am not sponsored by them, but they should sponsor this show. I'm just
Hey.
going to keep loading the sponsors potential in the front. So it's their smooth cold brew mixed with the Tezo tea skinny chai latte because
Wow.
I don't like milk. So
Got it.
I'm very caffeinated. It's delicious. And I like to think it's sort of healthier. I don't know, TBD.
I love it. Barista
Nice.
Cupo.
Love it.
Guys, let us know
Yeah.
what you're drinking, your beverage of choice this morning, as we get into everything women's football. Attacking Third, starting right now. Hey, 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 happy Monday and welcome into Attacking Third. Today, we have an absolutely packed show, the latest and greatest of all the trade news. Casey Stoney, she's going to Canada. We've got Sandra, who's going to drop some Sandra bombs, maybe, who knows? At least just fill us in on our weekend. And a mailbag. You've asked questions. We're here to answer them. Alongside Christine Cupo, Darian Jenkins, Sandra Herrera, I'm Lisa Carlin. Ladies, it was a fun weekend, a busy weekend for all of us. I'm thinking, how was it? What'd we get into? Darian, what'd you get up to this weekend?
I knew you were going to come to me first.
I
had a great weekend.
I had to.
Yeah. I had a great weekend. I was on morning footy a couple days in a row, so I was ready to go have fun and sleep/stay out. Watched a lot of soccer, saw some jazz music with producer Mark. Met Christine and another one of our coworkers for dinner Saturday. It was a loaded, fun weekend watching lots of footy.
Absolutely
Nice.
love it. Christine, what about you? What'd you get into?
I mean, my days blur together, so I don't know what weekend and weekdays are anymore, but I went outside, yeah, had dinner with Darian and another of our colleagues.
Went outside.
Hung out with Gigi. We took an epic walk through Central Park yesterday. This poor dog literally sat down at one point and was like, "Girl, no, like I'm over mileage, let me nap." And otherwise just like laid low. And I also got a gifty from South Bronx United, which I got to rep
Nice.
them.
Let's go.
Nice. It's so nice. I'm like, it reminds me, it's very Yankees pinstripe, but I love it. So shouts to them. And I think that concludes my fun weekend. I went outside, y'all.
Nice.
I'm
I love that
actually pretty
jersey.
impressed because it's freezing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I make special exemptions to go outside.
Nice.
Sandra, you hanging
I
in there?
love, yeah, hanging in there. I love the kid.
Yeah.
It was cool. It's no big deal. I got to hang out in a room with Emma Hayes. It was fine.
Ooh.
It was chill. Like, just a regular person coming to my city. It was all good. Hung out a lot over the week and then into the weekend at the United Soccer Coaches Convention. Emma Hayes was one of the keynote speakers there. Massive turnout for her. But yeah, I actually really appreciate and value all of the stuff that I got to experience outside of that as well. So good stuff for me this weekend.
You're so
Here we go,
wholesome.
Carlin.
Sandra.
Unload all your Eagles fandom on us now.
What
I
did
know
you
it's
do,
coming.
Lisa?
Absolutely, guys. It's Victory Monday. It's playoff season in the NFL, and my birds are flying high. We got this.
So
even when-
painful. I mean,
even
I'm
when the
happy for
offense
you,
doesn't put up
but
enough. We got our defense. We got our boys, Saquon and Jalen. They're ready to rock. Yeah, I watched football, soccer, and American style, and all the sports. And obviously, it's Victory Monday. Go Birds. Sandra, she's rocking green for the Eagles today too.
I
know
love
it.
a Packers loss. Let's go, baby.
I just know it. But that's not the only thing I want to win. I also really want to win an award with Attacking Third. And today is the very last day that fans can vote. Monday, January 13th. You can vote for Attacking Third in the Sports Podcast Award for Best Football Podcast and Diverse Voices Award. There's a QR code on your screen. There's a link in the YouTube description, link in the podcast description, and the winners are determined entirely by fan voting. If you've already voted for us, thank you so much. Clear your cache, get a new email, vote for us again. It would mean the world to us. And if you haven't told someone or you haven't voted yet, today is the last day to vote, and it means the world to us. Thank you for tuning in, for listening as a podcast, watching on Galazzo Network, and joining us live on YouTube. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Who knows? If we win, maybe there'll be some fun things, prizes that we get to give for you all. So thank you for voting. We'll see. I don't know. If anything, just more Sandra bombs.
You're putting it out there. I like it.
Just putting it out there. You never know. Guys, big news. A lot of rumors twirling and swirling around out there in the winter air, including an absolutely massive trade. This dropped on Saturday this weekend that U.S. women's national team forward Jaedyn Shaw is reportedly being traded from San Diego Wave to the North Carolina Courage. This is a huge move for the young player who spent her entire professional career in San Diego. She signed there at just 17, and now she might be going to play at the Courage. Sandra, what else can you tell us in this move? What else is out there about this news?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that the fact that this was a requested trade from Jaedyn Shaw. Apparently, it was something that came up during their very terrible 2024 season. And so I think if you look at two sides of the coin here, you're looking at North Carolina and you're saying, that's a dub. What an absolute pickup and acquisition for North Carolina Courage. People are already getting exciting. How are they going to play together? She and Ashley Sanchez. What is it going to look like? And then I think if you're looking at the San Diego Wave side of things, it's just a little bit of continuity for some of the negative stuff kind of surrounding the club right now. There's definitely a layer of clouds. I think there's no secret about that at this point. And so while, again, I think I made this reference about Gotham about a week ago, that while a player request for a trade might come up and you want to try and get in front of that and say, look how great we are at finding a partner and honoring this request. The other side of that is that the player wanted out of your club. So it's a little bit of a massive pendulum swing, depending on, the silver lining, which side of that silver lining you're taking a look at. But I think as far as for player, for North Carolina, it's a massive move. It's a massive pickup. And I'm not too sure if it's the only one that we're going to see for the Courage. They could make some other moves, I think.
What do you know that you're not telling us, Sandra?
Not enough, and I only share things that I know.
Guys,
she's holding out for us. I mean, come on, Sandra. What can we ply her with? What do you love? What can we supply you? How do we extract this information ahead of time, Sandra?
I'm a simple girl. I like tea.
She's selling y'all out for a tea bag. I'm just saying.
Dee, this is a huge move. What do you think? What the heck is Sean Nahas building and concocting in North Carolina?
I mean, between him and Damon, they're building a dynasty in North Carolina for women's soccer. So I'm here for it, even though North Carolina rejected me. So a little bitter about that. But I really like this for Jaedyn Shaw, looking at the way that North Carolina plays, especially in that modified box. Imagine Jaedyn Shaw and Ashley Sanchez as the 210s. That is scary. Thinking about the way that Nahas has been able to adapt this team as well with the amount of injuries they've had, but they've stayed consistent the way they play. They like possession. They have self-expression from their players. A lot of combination play. It's Spanish style, Americanized soccer, and I'm here for it. I think Jaedyn Shaw fits that to a T. And I also think this is a place where Shaw's going to be pushed to be better. Technically, tactically, she's around players that are just as good as she is on the ball, where she's going to have to keep improving. And I think Sean Nahas is the coach that's going to help push her to that next level. And you know what, with San Diego, I know we're going to get into that, but I also would not want to be somewhere, especially at 20 years old, and you have the world in front of you. There's a World Cup coming up. There's so many camps in between now and then, where you want to be at a team that's going to keep pushing you forward and has your best interests without all of the BS going on the front office side that clearly trickles down to the playing side. I'm happy for her that she's getting out. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more players leaving, maybe to North Carolina, maybe to other teams that are in need of some of these really high caliber players from San Diego. But I think that this is a really smart move, and I'm looking forward to seeing how she's able to play with everybody on that team in NC. But I still think we're going to see more moves, either to NC, out of NC. I think it's not done yet. NWSL it's crazy this year.
It's absolutely crunch time in the trade window and January for teams and players to make moves. The next week, 2 weeks before everyone gets settled into preseason are going to be crazy. Remember, North Carolina also recently re-signed young Japanese international forward Manaka Matsukubo also to this. So we get to see Manaka with Ashley Sanchez again as they continue to build that partnership. But now you throw Jaedyn Shaw into the mix, and Sean Nahas does such a good job of putting players into positions to help them succeed, to grow their game, to challenge themselves, to expand outside of this potential box that they are in. And Jaedyn Shaw is on the verge of cracking even more potential because she's such a young player, and we saw her explode out San Diego, which called her into the national team. But there's a next level and another step for her. And this is a move and an opportunity that is going to be crucial for Jaedyn Shaw. But it also leaves behind a very big hole at San Diego. Christine, what possibly is the Wave going to do to fill these holes that they are continuously losing and leaking?
I mean, great question, but I think that I honestly have more question marks floating above the Wave right now than I do answers. I think there's still players to leave there before we start worrying about who's going to be like filling this hole that Jaedyn Shaw will leave behind. I know everybody's eyes already have turned to Naomi Girma to be like, hey, is she gonna, hit the road and get out of there too? It just right now it doesn't seem like a place that anybody's going to want to be. Um, I don't know. I feel like they need to prove that they're somewhere that should be a destination. Not terribly dissimilar from like a Houston, but I feel like they're slightly better. But I feel like they're starting from the ground up again this season, and it's going to be a tough go. I don't know. I feel like there would have to be a lot of money in it for somebody to be like, yeah, let me go to this Wave side right now, and try to be that guy.
We spoke with newest head coach of San Diego Wave, Jonas Eidevall, Sandra and I last week, 2 weeks ago, last week. I have no idea. Time runs together. But Sandra, you got to ask him if there's anyone that he wants to work with, specific players at San Diego. What do you think he knew? Take a listen, guys, and then we're going to dissect this after. Take a listen to Jonas Eidevall.
I know for some coaches, maybe in their ambition, they relish to work with certain players, maybe star type of players. And for the Wave, they've got a number of those players, whether it's Kaylin Sheridan at the goalkeeping position, Canada's goalkeeper. A lot of folks are obviously familiar at this point with Naomi Girma. Are there any of these athletes that you're looking forward to working with in the club at the Wave?
You know what? I look forward to work with every single one of the players. I have to say it's such a privilege when you step into a new team that you're able to get to meet all these new persons to you, and you get to learn about their journey, about their background, about what motivates them, and what their goals are, and what their values are, and I feel like that part is so enriching when you come in and you work with a team. So this period here now, when you start to making all these connections, and I start to organize all these sort of now individual calls with all the players and staff, it's actually so nice to be able to get to know people like that, and trying to find ways to see like, okay, how can we work together in order to get the team to be as successful as possible, but also to help this person reach her own personal goals, and trying to find that common ground.
Okay, Sandra, he's not naming names for you. He's not letting you know the players he wants to work with. Okay, so he didn't necessarily leave a lot of meat on the bone for us to chew on, did he there?
No,
perhaps
no.
Mindsets 2020? Anything we're gleaming from this now, Sandra?
Listen, I dropped a couple names. I was hoping he'd give me a couple too. Listen, there's nothing wrong if you're someone that's stepping into a new role, new position, new job, whatever. Maybe you're excited about the prospect of getting to work with someone new that maybe you're like really excited about. And I don't think that was an unfair question, but I respect that he doesn't want to maybe drop names when he hasn't even gotten to the club yet. Like when we did that interview, Lisa, he wasn't even in San Diego yet. So it does make you also wonder if like he has to get familiar with the players that he actually will have, because the truth is that trade window hasn't closed yet. It's coming up very, very quickly. And at this point, and in this stage in the game, there's been enough rumors about Girma at this point, and all of the attention that she's receiving, rightfully so, because she's the best center back in the world right now. But I think if you're San Diego, again, this just adds more of those layers to all of the complex things that are happening right now with your club. So not only are you dealing with this departure for Jaedyn Shaw, who you had just signed to a contract through, I believe it was 2026. Now you're dealing with all of these headlines about a potential transfer for Naomi Girma, who was also given a contract extension. These were two players that they were given these extensions, new contracts, because they were supposed to be these faces of the club moving forward. And now here we are, just like a year, possibly even less than a year later than some of these contracts getting announced, that they are potentially, to both of them, leaving this club. That's tough. I think not only for folks who are affiliated with the club, but I think if you're a fan, if you find yourself invested as a supporter, as a season ticket holder, you're like, what is going on, and what is going to be the next step? If these players are leaving, who are you bringing in at this point? And I think maybe that's where they're hopeful that someone else can come in and want to play for this club.
So what is happening with Naomi Girma? Anyone want to take a stab at it?
I have no idea, but it's tough to be in her position thinking that, she walked into an organization as a super young, talented player, defender of the year. The team won so much with Casey Stoney, to then Alex Morgan's leaving. You're seeing front office complaints of such severity that is scary to think that that's a space that you're working in. Your field is terrible. Your coach has got fired. You're in this almost purgatory the entire time this last season. I think you have to think long term about what that means for your career and how you want to develop. It's scary thinking this coach is coming in, didn't seem to leave on the best notes from Arsenal. It's still questionable what the hell is going on with the front office, what's happening with our stadium. We get third, fourth dibs on when we get to have games here and what the field is supposed to look like in these conditions. Now I'm thinking about my own health and safety going to these matches. There's a lot at stake. So if there's a more appealing offer, and hey, if teams are willing to pay, which I'm sure San Diego's getting a lot of money for Shaw, that's a way to offload, as sad as it would be to see Girma leave San Diego. I don't think she's going to, but as sad as it would be, that's an opportunity to then acquire players that, hey, we're going to try to build from the ground up. We're going to have a total reset year. Let's go back to playing some ugly football and let's get the players that we want and try to figure things out. But I don't think Girma's going to leave, because I do think if she's there, that is a player's, especially her and Sheridan, those are two players you can truly, truly build your team around from the back line forward.
I agree.
San Diego only has so much pull with their beach and their palm trees, but when everything else is falling apart, it's not looking that appetizing.
Yeah.
Okay, before we jump out of this segment, quick answers, yes or no from each of you. With this new acquisition, Jaedyn Shaw, Manaka staying at North Carolina, what Nejas is building, can North Carolina Courage win the NWSL title this season? Sandra?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm saying yes as well. Our folks on YouTube, they were not with us. 76% said no to that question. Only 24% saying yes. Have faith in the Courage.
Explain yourselves, chat. Let me see it. What's the rationale?
Casey Murphy holding it down in the back. Like, really? That's a huge no. That's a big no.
is a lot building.
Mm.
As we get closer to the 2025 NWSL season, we'll tell you exactly why and how North Carolina can do that. But until then, we've got more news and happenings. We're breaking it all down. Casey Stoney, she's going to Canada. Stick with us. Hey, welcome back to Attacking Third. Big news dropping this morning, Monday, January 13th. Former San Diego Wave head coach Casey Stoney is officially named Canadian national team head coach. She signs a 3-year deal running through the next Women's World Cup with an option for 2028. Just a little bit of background on this. Canada hasn't had a permanent head coach since Bev Friesman left and was dismissed during the Paris Olympics last July due to Drone Gate and the drone scandal. Andy Spence has been the interim head coach. And Casey Stoney, she's also been unemployed. She was dismissed from San Diego and made a 7-match winless streak back in June this past season. 3 seasons, though, that she spent with San Diego, and she won something each year: Coach of the Year award, a Shield, and a Challenge Cup. This new appointment for Casey Stoney into Canada Soccer is, quote, supported by philanthropic contributions to Canada Soccer, and she is the first beneficiary of a new fund established specifically to support women in elite coaching. That quote comes from Kevin Blue, the CEO and General Secretary of Canada Soccer. But Christine, it looks like she's moved on from NWSL. How about this for a next step for Casey Stoney?
Casey loves herself a challenge, apparently. I mean, from expansion team to rebuilding the integrity and full on program for Canada. I think it's great. I think she's great. She's a great coach. I think that this is certainly a challenge. It will certainly be a bounce back for her, but I think the asks are very large. They have some really talented players. I think probably some of the best that we've seen in more recent years. And so she certainly has a good crop to work with. I think it's just a matter of now sort of turning the page and moving forward and kind of dusting off a little bit of the muck that got spread onto that poor women's team just due to Drone Gate. Excited to see what she does. And I'm sure that the players have got to be thrilled to see Casey Stoney walking through the door there.
I love this move. Also, I realize I'm kind of wearing red in support of Casey Stoney moving to Canada. Shout out. First move, no drones. There's going to be no drones in Canada anytime there is a freaking soccer camp. Please, no more of that. Second, I love this for Casey Stoney because looking at not only how she is as a coach, which is super impressive, coming from how successful she was on the playing side, to building herself up to where she is now, coaching the Canadian national team, but she's also a huge advocate for women's soccer and for better conditions, for better pay, for better bodily autonomy and healthcare for what these players deserve, and creating avenues and funding for those things to happen. There's been such an issue with Canada, both on the men and women's side, where they don't have funding for camps. These players aren't being paid for winning at the Olympics or exceeding far beyond the expectations that anyone has set for them. And I think Casey Stoney is the coach that can do it and really push this federation forward, not only just on the playing side of, developing Canada and seeing what they can build on from, we finally saw a 3 back and they looked so dynamic and so good going forward. If they stayed away from, what would we call it? Cold oatmeal football. We may see that a little bit at the beginning because that's a big adjustment to go to coaching a different national team with limited time together. But I think that we're going to see a very advanced and sophisticated version of this Canadian women's team. And I'm so excited for it. And I do think Casey Stoney can be the one to really change things around as well on the front office funding side so that Canada can compete and get the minutes and time together that they deserve. And also that bag. Because these players deserve to be paid. Casey Stoney deserves to be paid. It's crazy that they had to get, essentially, we were joking, a GoFundMe to acquire her as the head coach. But hey, if that's what needs to be done, let's get it done. And I'm excited to see what she's going to do with this team.
Congratulations on securing the donations for Casey Stoney. Listen,
sometimes you gotta sounds a little fishy. Like
it sounds crazy.
Yeah, but you know what? When there's
get
wilder things that have happened in women's soccer where they're trying to essentially raise funds on the back end at a lot of federations, it's just sad to see in 2025 for Canada.
Yeah. I think, look, I think just automatically on the surface level, incredible hire and incredible gift for Canada. You got to give props where props are due. They needed to make an important key signing in this position, in this role, and they did it by getting Casey Stoney. I think there might be some layer of counter argument where there's like, oh, like this is a coach also who is stepping into the international role. It's going to be different, for comparing, coaching a national team than coaching a club. But I think for the moment that's in front of Canada Soccer right now with this women's national team, it is the right hire. I don't think this is a coach that's going to have to come in here and completely change the culture. It's not so much that locker room that needs fixing or anything like that. We saw what those players did during incredible pressure of the Olympics when all of the noise was surrounding them. So I really don't think it's an issue of the players, the locker room, and having to get that in order. But there does have to be a layer of trust that is rebuilt when it comes to players and coaching staff. And I think Casey Stoney is going to be that coach to provide that sort of trust building in an expedited process. And I think when you look at the calendar in front of them, for Casey Stoney making this move to Canada, maybe it can be considered a little bit of a lateral move after she came stateside to coach in NWSL. And you look at 2027, how the World Cup is going to be in Brazil, how in 2028, the Olympics are going to be hosted in Los Angeles. These are things where she can kind of still be settled and still stay here. And with that, probably do a really, really good job with this Canada women's national team. So I think it's a great addition. It's a good hire. I think, like Lisa said, there's going to be some eyebrows risen or some question marks around the payment process, of how they had to get her, getting donations and things like that. But I think as far as the good fit for the position, I think this is a great hire for the federation.
Across the board, we all agree. Great hire. I mean, Casey Stoney is a fantastic coach. Canada has a lot of work to do, but she's proven that she can take a team from absolutely nothing, an expansion side in the wave, and bring them to a trophy and do it relatively quickly. Now, there are other holes that come with coaching a national team that aren't really comparable to coaching a club team. You don't get nearly as much time together with the group. You only really get camps and call-ins. And when you don't have funding at a federation, you can't have camps, right? There's no January camp right now. Jessie Marsh, the head coach at the men's side, has spoken a lot about this with Canada Soccer. You also can't just recruit anyone, right? You got to have nationality with the country that you're coaching. So there are going to be some obstacles for Casey Stoney, but this is a Canadian soccer side that has really overcome a lot in their last several years. Despite the drone scandal at the Paris Olympics, the players still stuck together and advanced and continued to win, and a point deduction, and they still made it out of their group. Currently, Canada Soccer is ranked 6th right now. We get to see Casey Stoney in action next month in February when Canada will play a 3-match series in Spain against 3 different teams. But the biggest question is, how and can Casey Stoney get Canada Soccer to be top ranked in the FIFA rankings, to compete at the same level as the U.S. women's national team? Because that is the goal for every player of Canada Soccer, for the coaching staff, and for the federation. And is it possible, Darian, for Casey Stoney to do her magic with Canada Soccer and get them to be one of the best in the world?
I believe it is. Sandra made such a good point about, hey, let's look at with DroneGate, you did too, Lisa, but getting deducted points. This team had to rally around each other so hard to overcome all the noise and criticism they as players were receiving for DroneGate, and still made it out of their group, still were playing good soccer, and just looked more together than we've ever seen that team look. And when you have that, when you've gone through something so difficult as that and dealt with that scrutiny and overcome it with that solid group of players that you know can lead you, I think that you have a different depth of edge that you can overcome things. So that partnered with Casey Stoney, the talented coach that she is, the advocate that she is for wanting things to be better and putting her name on the line to do it, is, I think, a perfect mix of them being able to compete and be one of those top 3-4 teams in the world again. Also, if I were Casey Stoney, I would be popping my shit looking at San Diego and looking at what a trash can that is right now. And she gets hired as Canada and has this massive opportunity to show her stuff and really prove what a great and talented coach and person that she is. I think she absolutely can do it. I think there's some edge and a little rub some dirt off your shoulder on both sides of this, from the player side as well as Casey Stoney, that's just going to partner and I think come out in a really, really dope way that's going to be great for the Federation, for the players, and for Casey Stoney.
She's got to be so happy she, I don't know, escaped the chaos.
Yeah, bye.
Man.
Have fun, everybody. Damn.
Sometimes that grass is greener, and sometimes that grass is Canadian.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
We asked the people chilling with us on YouTube, can Casey Stoney get Canada women's national team to the same level as the U.S.? 55% said yes, 45% saying no. Split pretty
Nice.
down the middle. We get our first look at her next month in February. Casey Stoney did have an official statement after the news dropped this morning saying, quote, "I am honored to join Canada Soccer." She also said that together with the Federation's new leadership, we will strive to build on past successes and continue to grow the sport in Canada on and off the field. I look forward to the journey ahead and to engaging with the incredible passion of Canadian soccer fans. So she addresses a little bit about what's happened, but mostly says she's looking to the future. She wants to build on and off the field, which has been a true sentiment coming from Emma Hayes when she took over at the U.S. women's national team, and now Casey Stoney. I'm so excited for this acquisition for Canada Soccer, for what they're going to do, frankly, for what Casey Stoney's going to do. And we get our first look at her next month when Canada travels to Spain during the international window. All right, guys, don't go anywhere. We're taking a very quick break, and then we're just picking Sandra's brain. She's got a lot of info in there, and we're stealing it all from her. Stick with us. Hey, welcome back to Attacking Third. So every show, basically, I won't speak for Christine and Darian, but I just want to ask Sandra questions, pick her brain. She's been in this space, covering it for so long. She's got a lot of secrets she keeps hidden before she wants to drop those Sandra bombs. And last week, Sandra, we missed you on Thursday, but you were busy. You were at the coaches convention in Chicago. She's going to have all of the official tea, cbssports.com, read Sandra's writing because it is magical and wonderful. But we missed you. Now spill. Give us the tea you learned from the conference. Biggest takeaway from the coaches conference last week.
We got work to do, man. That's my biggest takeaway. I think that was what was so refreshing about kind of getting to experience the conference in this capacity. Just for some context, anytime I'd gone to the United Soccer's convention in any capacity was always tied to the NWSL draft. So this was really the first year where I actually got to take in the convention and actually kind of sit in on sessions, hear these kind of classroom lectures, and kind of really hear from people, coaches, folks in the space about current state of soccer. And it was really refreshing because it was nice to kind of have that experience after not really getting that so much and just focusing on a singular event. There's no more draft. So maybe I'll get to go to more of these in the future. But it was interesting to sort of have some of these sessions build up towards the big Emma Hayes keynote session on Saturday. And some of these sessions, that I stepped in and out of were about kind of the future, really the future of US soccer. And a key word that was being tossed around a lot was the development of players, making sure that players get developed and get development plans at a very, very young age. They spoke a lot about the US way, which is going to be something that people are hear a lot about over this next cycle, because the talent ID teams and the scouts are putting together incredible programs to want to make sure that players all basically essentially get scouted. There was a lot of messaging around that every player deserves to get scouted. They want to try to have more camps with young players regionally across the country. There's a lot of players invested in different, or coaches invested in different areas of the country, because again, we're a huge nation, so you have to divide things up in order to get the best out of the nation. So I think that was really, really refreshing, but the different perspectives as well. And that's what I mean, where we've got a lot of work to do. I was so grateful to sit in on so many of these sessions that were led by women really within the space. And I was particularly moved by a session with Orlando Pride assistant Yolanda Thomas, Carmelina Moscato, the assistant over at Racing, Ella Messar, who's a full-time assistant with the Red Stars, and Emma Thompson, who's with North Carolina Courage. So it was incredible to hear from them and their experiences as well. And you can't help but sit in on a panel like that and think about all the times we have heard about where are the women? Where are the women? Why aren't women getting these opportunities? Why aren't we hearing about women coaches being interviewed for some of these head coaching vacancies? They're out there. They're just not being talked about, and they're just not being highlighted. So it was really nice to sort of sit in on so many of these sessions and say, there they are. They're right there. They're in front of us, but they're just not being spoken about. And just some of the perspectives, how different they are as well. There were some rooms that I were in where this question came up a lot. This concept of, do women need to coach women soccer teams, and do men need to coach only men's soccer teams, and how different those perspectives were as well. Some people felt, yes, that women need to be coaching women's soccer team, and others said that no, it shouldn't matter. So there's even a very much a split there as well. So there's work to do for sure. But like most things in women's soccer and in women's sport, celebrating the gains when you get them, and then continuing to put on your hard hat and doing the work.
Sandra, I love that. I love that Carm and Yolanda got to speak at the conference, because I think there is that narrative around coaches conference. The knee-jerk image you have is of it being mostly a male event. I'm not going to lie. So that makes my heart happy. I wanted to know, thinking about, we're talking so much about like youth development, investing in more camps. Emma Hayes has brought that narrative on, which I'm here for. But I guess the trust that's been broken for me as a player is I've had more terrible coaches than I've had good coaches.
Yeah.
How did anybody speak on how they were developing the coaching side in US soccer to then help recognize young talent, help develop young talent? Because Emma Hayes has even been critical that we've let a whole generation fall through the cracks.
Yeah, I think United Soccer's coaches is a place where they're trying to bridge that gap. You could hear the efforts and folks who are trying to get in front of that. I think something that was really cool as well that came out of these sessions were the fact that there was another sessions that I sat in on, and it was about a mentorship program. It was a whole session just about that there was a mentorship program that exists for women's soccer and women's soccer coaches. It's the She Champions initiative, which kind of came by way of the She Believes Cup movement, and it kind of birthed out of that, and now it's its own thing. It's this network of mentoring within women's coaches, and they all kind of, you could see some of the connections that they had with each other, the vulnerability that was shared there, the moms in coaching session. There's all these layers and these different caveats that come into play that women have to, I don't want to say deal with, but they're different experiences than their male counterparts find themselves having to go through. So not only do you find yourself as maybe oftentimes the only in a space, but then you have all these other layers that are added in as a woman when you are navigating those spaces. So for me, as someone who has been in the space for a little while, maybe learning about some of these things for the first time, I'm like, what does that say about just that lack of knowledge that some of these things exist? Again, this was my first time even hearing about the She Champions initiative and the program that exists. So I love that those things are in place, but it's my hope that there's ways for it to get spoken about more, whether maybe it's even here on A3 whenever we have like our coaches corners type of segments, and maybe getting these people who are doing the work in the space, that platform and that opportunity to talk about these really, really good things. Because if you don't, again, we talk about this all the time. If you don't see it, if you don't even know it exists, how do you even participate in those kinds of things? And I mean, these are not coaches that are just getting their start. We're talking about women who hold massive licenses, A licenses, who are on their B license working to get their A licenses. And maybe someday we'll hear even more about women achieving their pro licenses. And so it's happening. It's happening right now. But to the point of your question, Darian, maybe it's not enough, and maybe we need to do our own parts in trying to educate ourselves and make sure that we're talking about it in an open and responsible way.
Christine, we can't hear you. She's got questions, but we can't hear them.
Sorry, I'm trying to circumvent the air hammer so you guys don't sound like I'm working on the railroad back here from my heating system. But I digress. New York, whee! I actually just have like a more broad sweeping question, Sandra, because the nature of this conference has sort of changed, and with that, likely the vibe now that there is no more draft. What was like your big positive that you've taken from participating in the conference, and like sort of the negative, the drawback to the shift? Just maybe it's the feel. Big bang. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's almost refreshing in a way, and maybe this is going to sound like kind of backhanded in a sense, but I know we've talked about this all like amongst each other, whether it's been on the show or off the mic, that when it comes to navigating spaces or talking about this sport, talking about women's soccer leagues, there's always that layer of wanting to talk about the sport, the X's and O's, the tactics that we see on the pitch, the cool things that are happening in and out of the pitch, but also needing to balance that with the fact that we find ourselves in these spaces and on this show having to talk about some really difficult things. And it is a constant balancing act. And so it's refreshing in the sense where you know you can feel that you're not alone in navigating that. And so while, again, this concept of celebrating the wins when we get it, but looking ahead and knowing that there's still work to be done, I think it's very helpful to know that you're not alone. And I think Yolanda Thomas probably said it best, and that there are going to be moments where you want to quit. But sometimes when you find yourself as like a pioneering person in the space, her especially, a Black women coach full-time with a fully professional team in Orlando Pride that just won multiple championships, maybe you don't reap all those rewards as being a pioneering presence, but you are doing work that is going to be so much more fulfilling in different ways that maybe you didn't expect. So I think it's both refreshing, and it's both like, this is what it is. Like there's that reality check where you're just like, oh yeah. So in those moments where you're talking about how it gets better, you find yourself that maybe you're part of that and trying to help it get better. That for all of those moments where we find ourselves having to talk about difficult, complex issues within women's sport, within women's soccer, that there actually are so many more good people who are trying to do the work to make that better. Because there are days where we find ourselves talking about things and it feels like, here we go again. And it's refreshing to get that reminder that there are people, many more people who are trying to work to make these things better.
Sandra, thank you for sharing these insights and kind of giving us a sneak peek at what these conversations are like. It's very cool. Thank you. Before we move on from this, I do have one quick one. It is potentially report week for NWSL players. Preseason can start as early as this Wednesday, January 15th. Any insight on who's reporting, when they're reporting, what's going on this week or for preseason in the NWSL?
Yeah, folks are hyped. There were a ton of league meetings that happened to be taking place alongside the convention. So shout out to all the wonderful people who are part of technical staffs and NWSL clubs. They were very there. They were very diligent. They were, very excited for the preseason, and it made me excited for the preseason as well. I know we're all amped for it, but some teams are going to hit the ground running. Jan 15th, I believe Seattle Reign are looking to target that date to open things up. Orlando Pride looking to kick things off on the 19th. Chicago Red Stars are getting a little bit of a later start on the 27th, but they've got plans laid out as well. They want to go back to Florida as part of their preseason initiative and get some time in the sun down there, maybe play against some other teams. So there's a lot of excitement, and a lot of teams are already circling their dates for the preseason.
Cool. Us too. You know it. You guys at home, you should be circling your calendars too every Monday and Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern time on YouTube. Come hang with us. That's when your calendars should be circled. Sandra, thank you. Go read all of the great writing that she does, cbssports.com. Follow her on Twitter too, because she drops a lot of good Sandra bombs and nuggets there. And of course, she's always with us.
Also Blue Sky. She is on there.
Blue Sky. Sorry, guys. I forget all the things. It's not even called Twitter anymore, is it? Oh my gosh. I can't.
It is to everyone who matters.
I can't keep up. But you know what I can keep up with? All the questions that people ask us. Guys, stick with us. We are answering your questions next. Let's go. Ding dong, mail's here. A3 mailbag time. You've asked, we are here to answer. If you have questions for Attacking Third, any of us, let us know across social media at Attacking Third, and also on YouTube in the comments, podcast reviews, anywhere. Our producer Mark does a great job of writing them all down, compiling them, and now we get to answer them. Let's jump in. From at Gigsy37, I'm trying here. First question, where do you think Midge Purce is going to end up? Sandra, where are you thinking? What are your senses telling you?
Gigsy with the hot question right off the back. They want to know about free agency, don't we all? Listen, I think Midge Purce is one of the key targets of free agency. When you look at that long list, you automatically look for those sort of marquee players who are the ones that are going to make those headlines or impact the team. And I would argue that Midge Purce was a player that was maybe on the radar for a lot of teams, but I have to wonder, with all of the movement around Gotham, if maybe, just maybe, that means she might stay put with the East Coast side. We already saw that Lynn Williams is now with Seattle. They have continued to make moves and just conversations and feelings as well that took place over this week. I have a feeling that Gotham is not done making moves with their roster. So that could include more player movement out, but that could also include more player movement in. And I just feel like Midge Purce could possibly continue her time with Gotham moving forward.
Ooh, interesting. Christine, do you have any insight on this? Any guesses?
It's hard to picture Midge going anywhere other than Gotham. Obviously, anything could happen. Crazier things have happened. So I feel like she'll stay put.
I like that shout. She did talk about in the off season, her show, that's her show, I guess we can call it, that last year she wanted to make more money. She wanted to be paid what she's worth coming off of an injury year. She's still a top player. I think, frankly, any team would be happy to have a striker like that join their team to provide a lot of depth, a lot of experience, goal scoring prowess. She can assist.
Does she want to go to the Wave?
Yes, anyone would be lucky. I would be shocked if she leaves Gotham at this point because of all the changes. Okay, question number 2. This one from Laura Brevitz, 3944. I love this question. Thoughts on Utah Royals situation, because this gives us a chance to kind of dissect what has happened. Former Utah Royals goalkeeper Carly Nelson, she broke her silence after a season-long excused mental health absence from the team that started in May of 2024. Nelson posted several slides across her social media, slides of text that said, quote, "We shouldn't have to choose between our mental health and our careers. Organizations need to be part of the solution, not the root of the problem," stating she can no longer stay silent about the emotional and psychological abuse she endured at Utah. Utah also released a statement saying the club strives to create a positive and supportive environment and takes any allegations to the contrary with the utmost seriousness and urgency. Darian, these are big words coming from a player, from a club, after we really haven't heard anything all season from Nelson.
It's sad. I think obviously because I'm still connected within the NWSL. After Sally Yates, there were some changes, but I think the rot goes so deep that we'll see a lot more things come out, not just from Utah, but from other organizations as well. And I'm happy that Carly spoke up and wrote this statement because you can't imagine how long players and what other players are experiencing, frankly, that have to feel that they just have to sit with it and that they don't have a voice to say anything. So I commented on Carly's post saying, speaking truth to power, you're giving a voice to players that feel that they don't. Not just players, but people that maybe get inspiration from that as well. I'm really interested to see what Utah does next, how they're actually going to address it with Carly. I hope that they get resolution and that things structurally change, because we just know as women, a lot of the time we're told to shut up, you should be grateful. And the situation may not be great. You could be treated poorly. We're seeing that with San Diego. It's such an unfortunate part of the NWSL that's been so interwoven that we're still trying to get out of. So my heart breaks for Carly. My heart breaks for other players that identify with that are experiencing similar things. We don't have all of the details that she hasn't publicly spoken about yet. I hope that we do get that so that everybody can feel seen and that the NWSL can start to legitimize even more so than we've seen, because these things need to change. You should not have employees, players that have to come out and make statements like this. It should not be part of something that players have worked their entire lives to get to this point and are dealing with abuse.
Yeah, to the note of the Yates report and really all the investigations and reports that took place, you have to wonder if, unfortunately, when you have that sort of quote unquote reckoning that so many people had referred to that moment as, is if perhaps maybe things get a little bit messier before they actually do get worse. And sometimes it feels like when something like this comes out, when a player speaks about this experience, you're just like, you're reminded of that's actually really what's going on a little bit at this time across, honestly, globally. It's tragically not just NWSL where we hear these types of things from players speaking about their poor experiences. So the hope, I think, is that things do get resolved, that not only clubs do better by their players, but that these players who find themselves as victims of these moments and in these environments get the support that they need as well.
It takes a insurmountable amount of courage to stand up and also essentially inadvertently make yourself the center of a lot of public scrutiny when you choose to stand up for a lot of people that haven't found it in themselves to do that yet. So to every single player who's managed to post, talk, chime in and support each other, I have immeasurable amounts of respect for you, especially as we move forward, where we continue to think that these issues have been eradicated and they haven't.
Yeah.
And I think that's all that I can contribute today to this. And lots of love and support to Carlin Nelson and everyone else who continue to unravel a ball of yarn that a lot of people would rather stuff under the bed and pretend it didn't happen.
Hands down support to Carly Nelson, to other players at Utah, other players across the league that can't say this yet or haven't been able to do that yet. And I hope that there's resolution. We'll keep you guys updated on anything that comes out of the club, of Utah Royals, Carly Nelson, any other players, things that happened. Our third and final mailbag question. This one comes from Camel 45. This is probably our favorite question that we didn't ever get to before in an episode when we wanted to. Who is the best defender of all time? Camel 45. Let's go with this question. Christine, I'm tossing to you first. Best defender of all time.
Wait, like in the grand scope of defenders, like I don't have to narrow. Like you're not going to give me like a year, a
All
league,
time.
a time,
All time.
Bro.
Just say Girma. It's okay. Go with your heart.
Don't make it harder on
Is that what you would say, Sandra?
No, actually, I'm going to go with Carla Overbeck. I'll throw it back.
Yeah,
I'll throw it
I'm
back.
like,
That's a great
I'll go with
shout.
Carla Overbeck.
I've been alive for a long time. If I do something by recency bias, like,
For all those
goddamn.
youngins who don't know, Carla Overbeck was part of the 99ers, part of the beginnings of all of this great women's senior national team success for the United States. So Carla Overbeck for me.
Yeah, Sandra,
I'm gonna
with
go.
you. I'm thinking
Rampone?
long term. Joy Fawcett, guys.
Yeah.
She's
That's
got
Joy
like
Fawcett's a great shout.
another great shout.
240 something caps. She was with the 90s through the early 2000s. I loved watching Joy Fawcett play. Such an incredible.
We're throwing it back. All right.
No, you guys are throwing it back. Love Joy Fawcett. I'm gonna go with Becky Sauerbrunn. I think this is a player that
Yes.
paid her dues and was so consistent. So consistent. I think she was the backbone, the heart of the team for so long. And maybe was never the flashiest, or she never really got the recognition I felt that she deserved for how good she was, but also how much she advocated for players on the national team as well as players in the league being filtered in. So to me, it's definitely Becky Sauerbrunn for on and off the field stuff.
Yeah.
I like that shout. I think
Christine, you
she's
sticking with Girma?
Christine, you still have to say somebody.
I know. Let's go. Is it Christy Pierce? She's no longer Rampone. Let's go with her.
Yeah, that's a shout.
Another
I like
great
that shout. Guys,
Yes.
this was fun. If you have questions for us, let us know. We absolutely love answering them. Before we wrap up this, we want to make sure everyone knows and is aware our hearts, our thoughts, and our prayers are with everyone affected by the horrific wildfires taking over Southern California, all the lives, the homes, the businesses, the animals that are displaced and navigating this unimaginable loss. Attacking Third is with you. Do what you can in your local community to donate, to support anything. And we are so grateful for the first responders, the firefighters, everyone on the ground that is the local journalists, right, giving us all this information, fighting these fires and helping to protect everyone and everything in the greater LA area affected by these horrific wildfires in California. Thanks, guys, so much for rocking with us today. Don't forget, it's the last day to vote. Sports Podcast Award, Attacking Third. We need your vote. We thank you for it. If we win, you never know what'll happen. But thanks, y'all, for joining us. We will see you on Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube and back here on the Golazo Network. Thanks so much for joining us. For Mark, Darian, Sandra, and Christine, I'm Lisa. This was Attacking Third.